You're weak because you're afraid to suffer. You sit quietly in the comfort of your carefully arranged life. The curtains are drawn just enough to let in a filtered, agreeable light. The air smells faintly of manufactured tranquility. Lavender candles, essential oils, the fragrance of escapism. Your devices are charged, your notifications neatly silenced, your calendar padded with reminders of things that will not challenge you. You call this peace. You call this self-care. You call this growth. But I ask you, what is a man or a woman who has not bled for something greater than themselves? What is a life where one's hands are always clean, where the soul is never scalded by the fire of real experience? You call yourself evolved, but you are simply cushioned. Your bones have not been tested. Your spirit remains untempered. You are not at peace. You are sedated. Suffering, you see, is not the curse you've been told it is. It is the crucible, the forge, the divine instrument that strips away the ornaments and reveals the architecture of the self. In suffering, we meet not the demons the world fears, but the God within, the will to overcome, the will to become. Yet you flee from it. You wrap your mind in affirmations, wrap your body in routines, hoping the specter of hardship will pass you by, like death overlooks the well-fed. But it won't. It sees you. It waits. And it knows that when it finally visits, it will find you unready, fragile, unformed. Do you know why your ancestors were stronger than you? Not because they had more, but because they lost more. They faced famine, war, exile, abandonment. They did not read about pain, they lived it. And from it, they built virtues, resilience, clarity, humility, endurance. But you curate your pain into therapy speak and tweets. You make it digestible, palatable. In doing so, you disarm it. You refuse to wrestle with it. And so, it owns you. We have become a people obsessed with avoidance. Everything must be optimized, streamlined, made convenient. But the soul is not built in convenience. The soul is carved out of chaos. The gods you pray to, if you still dare pray, were born in blood and fire, not in a wellness retreat. Your greatness will not come from protecting yourself from pain. It will come from standing naked before it, arms wide, and saying, "Do your worst. I am not here to survive. I am here to be transformed." Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly suffered? Not from inconvenience, not from a bruised ego or a missed opportunity, but from the kind of pain that undoes you, the kind that forces you to reckon with the person you've become and the person you could be. If your answer is never, or not recently, then you are asleep. And life, real life, does not reward the sleeping. The greatest men and women in history were not immune to suffering. They were defined by it. The artist whose work lives on was not seeking comfort, but truth, and truth is often cruel. The philosopher who changed minds did not sip wine in peace, but tore himself apart to wrestle meaning from the void. The prophet, the warrior, the saint, all walked through fire. You think you can skip the fire? That if you read enough, quote enough, meditate enough, you will somehow become worthy without being wounded. But that is not how transformation works. Suffering is the price of admission to greatness, and if you fear it, you forfeit it. You ask, but must we suffer? No, not always. But when it comes, and it will come, you must learn to suffer well, to suffer consciously, to let it break what must be broken, and spare what must be spared. Most of all, to let it reveal you to yourself. Because within you is something terrifyingly powerful. Not your intellect, not your charm, but your will, the raw, unyielding force that can say, "I will not be broken, no matter what." That will is dormant in most. It waits, and suffering is the summoner. So, the next time life wounds you, not lightly, but deeply, do not retreat. Do not reach for comfort too quickly. Do not anesthetize your soul. Sit with it. Let it burn. Watch what survives the fire. That, my friend, is you. Not the curate itself, not the masked performer, but the thing beneath it all, scarred, sacred, and finally, real. You are weak because you are afraid to suffer. But you could be strong, unimaginably strong, if only you dared to. But perhaps you say to me, Nietzsche, is it not human to seek pleasure, to desire safety, to build a life free from torment? Ah, yes, human indeed, but not noble, not sovereign, not the kind of human that makes history tremble and the stars envious. There is a difference, a chasm between the human who survives and the human who transcends. And that difference lies not in what they avoid, but in what they endure. You mistake the absence of pain for the presence of life. But life is not merely the heartbeat, it is the struggle for meaning beneath it. The weak cling to the shallow breath of ease. The strong, the noble, they inhale chaos and exhale purpose. Let us examine the heart of fear. You are not afraid of suffering itself. You are afraid of what it will say about you. That you are inadequate, that you are broken, that you are alone. And so you build walls. You armor yourself with distractions, identities, indulgences, thinking this will save you from the verdict of the abyss. But suffering does not care for your disguises. It strips you. It speaks only the raw truth, what remains when all else is torn away. And yet, this is liberation. This is the doorway to your strength. If you let suffering speak, you may finally learn who you are beneath the echo chamber of your comforts. What terrifies you is not the pain itself, but the silence it brings. And in that silence, your soul screams its naked questions. Why am I here? Who have I become? What have I done with my one short life? Cowards flee this confrontation. The brave lean in. They descend, like Orpheus, into the underworld of their own being, not to escape, but to retrieve something sacred, their authenticity. And they emerge not unharmed, but transformed. Look around you. How many live with masks so thick, even they forget who they were before they put them on? How many spend decades building reputations, careers, entire families, all to avoid the encounter with their own pain? And then death comes, as it must, and they realize they never lived. They merely postponed, deferred, slept. I do not call you to martyrdom. I do not glorify suffering for its own sake. I glorify what it makes possible, what it demands of you. It is not the pain itself that matters. It is the confrontation with truth, with self, with will. The modern world teaches you to escape, but the eternal lesson has always been this: he who suffers with purpose does not suffer in vain. This is why your ancestors sang even in mourning, why the greatest poets wrote through madness, why saints kissed the flame, not because they desired agony, but because they knew what it could birth. You, yes, you, were meant to be forged in this fire, to rise with ash on your skin and light in your eyes. But you have not yet stepped in. You play with embers and call it transformation. You rehearse trauma and call it courage. But real fire consumes, it costs, and it leaves you forever changed. Do you dare? If you say no, then let me be clear. Your life will be safe, predictable, mild, but never profound. You will walk a path so wide and well paved, it leaves no trace of your passing. You will be praised for your politeness, your balance, your moderation, and you will die with your greatness unborn. But if you say yes, if you say, let it come, I will face it, then everything changes. You will be isolated, misunderstood, often afraid, but you will be alive. Not comfortably, Not cleanly, but vividly, magnificently. You were not born to be soothed. You were born to be sculpted. And the sculptor, suffering. The modern mind is fragile, not because it is less intelligent, but because it is less challenged. You speak of mental health as though it were merely the absence of discomfort. But true strength of mind is not found in avoiding the storm. It is found in learning to dance within it. Do not let this age of comfort rob you of your fire. You think you are safe, but what you have lost is far greater than what you have gained. You have traded danger for dullness, and in doing so, you believe suffering is the enemy, but it is your fear that poisons you, not the pain itself. Pain is honest. It does not lie. It does not flatter. It does not negotiate. It arrives like a storm, indifferent to your plans, death to your pleas. But fear, fear is the true deceiver. It whispers that you are not ready, that you will be destroyed, that your worth is too fragile to be tested. And so you retreat. Again and again, you choose numbness over confrontation. You soothe yourself with trivialities, new habits, pop philosophies, borrowed mantras. You surround yourself with comfort, confusing its softness for security. But this is not sanctuary. It is a cage, velvet-lined and beautifully lit, yes, but a cage nonetheless. You were not meant to be kept. You were meant to be cracked open. Do you think the eagle fears the sky because it is vast? Do you think the oak regrets the storm that split it and taught it how deep its roots could go? Then why do you regret the trials that have come to teach you the same? You have been taught that suffering must be avoided at all costs. But this doctrine of avoidance has birthed generations of hollow men and women, terrified of failure, allergic to truth, addicted to shallow victories. What great thing has ever been born without labor? What genuine wisdom has come without risk? What beauty that lasts has been painless? You are not weak because you suffer. You are weak because you deny suffering its rightful place in your evolution. You want joy, but without loss, strength, but without challenge, peace, but without the war that earns it. You want resurrection without crucifixion. But life does not work like that. There is a sacred rhythm, ancient and unbroken. Rise, fall, break, build. The river carves the stone not by aggression, but by endurance. The blade becomes a sword not by being admired, but by being beaten, bent, burned. If you are to become anything worth becoming, you must allow life to test you, and you must pass through those trials willingly. Not with bitterness, not with self-pity, but with reverence. Yes, reverence. Because to suffer is to be initiated. To suffer is to be chosen, not by fate, but by potential. The universe does not waste its pain. It directs it at those it intends to awaken. Have you been chosen? You will know by how deeply you've been hurt. You will know by how often you've been abandoned by ease, by how ruthlessly life has stripped you of illusions. You will know by the ache that no distraction can silence, by the nights that stretch into despair, and by the quiet voice that still says, "Get up." That voice, that is your will, the most divine thing about you. You may call it God, instinct, survival, or madness, but it is your only true compass. And it awakens not in your triumphs, but in your ruin. When you are broken, betrayed, reduced to silence, that is when your real voice is born. Not the one that speaks to others, the one that speaks to yourself. The one that says, "I am not done. I am not afraid. I will make this pain meaningful." Make no mistake, there is no strength without suffering. There is no courage without vulnerability. There is no transformation without loss. If you wish to rise, you must first allow yourself to fall, deeply, honestly, completely. And then, from that depth, you must choose to rise. Not because it is easy, not because it is guaranteed, but because it is yours to do. And what could be more glorious than that? Let others live politely. Let them gather applause, followers, praise. Let them master the arts of appearing fine. But you, if you dare, must live truthfully, even if it costs you everything, especially if it costs you everything. This is not romantic suffering. This is not the aesthetic of despair. This is the holy work of becoming, and only those who walk through it with open eyes and willing hearts will know its reward. So ask yourself now, without flinching, what pain are you still avoiding? What truth are you still afraid to name? What version of yourself have you kept chained in the basement of your convenience? Unlock the door. Let it come out. Let it speak. Let it rage. Let it demand the life it deserves. You were not born to remain unchanged. You were born to erupt, to burn, to die 1,000 times, and return.
You're weak because you're afraid to suffer. Part 4. You want truth. At least that is what you say. But I wonder, do you truly want to see, or do you simply want to believe that you have seen? There is a difference, a chasm in fact, between those who seek comfort in ideas and those who let ideas break them apart. Most merely accessorize with philosophy. They wear it like a well-tailored suit, quoting dead men to seem alive. But the few, the rare, allow thought to consume them. They do not carry the truth, they are carried off by it. What if I told you that your suffering is not a detour but the path itself? That the wound is not what holds you back but what beckons you forward? Every pain you fled, every humiliation, every betrayal, every collapse contains the seed of transformation. But you must stop cursing the fire and instead ask, what is this fire trying to forge in me? Until you ask the right questions, life will keep wounding you in the same places, over and over. Not because it is cruel, but because you are deaf. Deaf to what your pain is screaming into your bones. You cry, why me? I ask, why not you? Why should it be someone else who awakens while you sleep? Why should others bear the storms while you worship the sun? Why should others build strength in darkness while you hide from your own shadow? You see, to suffer well, to suffer consciously, is to participate in your own becoming. Most people are spectators of their pain. They wait for it to pass, for it to be explained, medicated, forgiven, forgotten. But the awakened one, the one who chooses to truly live, meets pain with open eyes and even open arms. He says, this is my teacher. She says, this is my trial. Do you know what happens to people who stop avoiding their pain? They become terrifying. Terrifying in their clarity. Terrifying in their resilience. Terrifying in their presence. They do not flinch when you speak the truth. They do not scramble to explain themselves. They do not crumble when plans fall apart, because they have died before, and they know death of illusion is not the end, it is the beginning. Now I will tell you a secret that soft minds cannot hold. The more you suffer with eyes open, the more alive you become. Not just in some poetic sense, not just as a metaphor. I mean truly, viscerally alive. Your perception sharpens, your empathy deepens, your instincts awaken. Because when everything unnecessary is burned away, all that remains is essence, the raw, undiluted will to live, fully, not conveniently. This is what the modern world cannot teach you. It teaches you to avoid pain, to medicate it, to intellectualize it. It offers you frameworks, diagnoses, strategies, but it will not tell you what the mystics knew, what the warriors knew, what the poets screamed into the void. That the soul is shaped not by information, but by confrontation. Do not misunderstand me. This is not a call to seek suffering for its own sake.
That would be as foolish as avoiding it. I am telling you, suffering will come anyway. What matters is how you meet it. Do you meet it as a victim? As a consumer? As a child asking for rescue? Or do you meet it as a creator, hammer in hand, ready to shape meaning from the blow? You were not born into this world to remain soft. You were born to become. And becoming is not graceful. It is raw. It is wild. It is the sacred act of unmaking yourself again and again, until what remains is no longer inherited, no longer borrowed, no longer pretending. Do you know what remains? Not your success, not your status, not your beliefs, only your will. Only that burning, silent force within you that refuses to vanish. That voice that says, even in the ashes, there is more. I will rise again. You want power? Then earn it. Not through applause, not through beauty, not through intellect. Earn it through suffering well, through looking life directly in the eye, even when it weeps blood. You want freedom? Then claim it, not by avoiding chains, but by realizing they were illusions all along. You want love? Then feel everything, even the unbearable, without turning away. Because strength is not the absence of pain, it is the refusal to be diminished by it. Your avoidance has made you small. Your fear has made you agreeable. Your addiction to ease has made you forget who you are. But it is not too late.
Let us speak now, not merely of suffering, but of transcendence. For those who have tasted the dark wine of despair and did not drown in it, they know. Something else emerges on the other side. Something that cannot be taught, cannot be bought, cannot be simulated. There is a presence you acquire when you have suffered well, a stillness, an authority. You do not need to raise your voice. You do not need to dominate a room. You are felt. Because you have met life where it is most real, in the breaking, not in the pretending. This is what the old ones meant when they spoke of wisdom. Not knowledge, not cleverness, but earned vision. The kind that cost you your comfort, your illusions, sometimes even your identity. And when all of that is gone, what remains is not emptiness, but capacity. The ability to hold contradictions, to stand inside uncertainty, to witness pain without flinching, and still choose life. It is from this place that greatness is born. Not from grand plans, not from branding or marketing or metrics, but from a soul that has been turned inside out and decided to return, not bitter, but braver. You cannot fake this. You cannot fake having walked through hell and made a home from the ashes. People can feel it. In the way you speak, in the way you don't speak, in the way you look at them, not with judgment, not with pity, but with the recognition of one who knows what it means to fall and to rise again without bitterness. So I tell you, and I tell you clearly, you are not suffering too much. You are suffering too little. Or rather, you are suffering too shallowly. You sip pain like weak tea. You never let it steep long enough to become real. You cut it with distraction, with consumption, with petty drama and digital noise. And then you wonder why you remain unchanged, why the same patterns haunt you, why the same fears rule you, why the same dreams never ignite. It is because you do not allow pain to do its sacred work. You must sit longer in the fire. You must stare longer into the abyss, not to romanticize it, but to let it speak. Let it say what only the abyss can say. Let it name you. Until you have heard that voice, the one that rises from beyond comfort, beyond ego, beyond control, you are not yet alive. You are still rehearsing, still performing, still trying to be someone acceptable. But the moment you stop fleeing your pain and instead turn to face it, not to fight it, but to learn from it, something shifts. You become dangerous, not in the way of violence, but in the way of depth.
You are no longer manipulable. You are no longer easy to offend, to deceive, to impress. Because you have touched something that cannot be taken away, a sovereignty of the soul. This, my friend, is the gift of suffering. Not the suffering itself, but what it unlocks, what it reveals, what it awakens. You were not made to drift through existence untouched by difficulty. You were not made to hide behind your screens, your routines, your temporary highs. You were made to feel, to break, to burn, and then to rise. Not once, but again and again and again. Each time clearer, each time truer, each time more you. And yes, you will lose things along the way. Friends, beliefs, certainties, personas. Let them go. Grieve them, yes, but let them go. What cannot withstand your suffering does not deserve your eternity. What remains after the fire is what was always meant to remain. So if you are in pain now, good. You are on the edge of something holy. And if you are not in pain, then prepare. Because it will come, not to punish you, but to invite you. And when it does, I hope you remember these words. I hope you do not reach too quickly for the anesthetic. I hope you sit in the dark long enough to see the shape of your soul. Because only then, and never before, will you understand. You were not weak because you suffered. You were weak because you were afraid to suffer. But now, if you accept the invitation, you may become something else entirely. Not perfect, not invulnerable, but true. And that, in this world of masks and mirrors, is the rarest strength of all.